All right, let's have a discussion about our direct placement service. And the truth is, direct placement is what I believe the majority of our clients should go for. It's more affordable by far. You have more control over the quality of the ISA you have. Don't get me wrong, my team ISAs are good. I hire tier 3. And if I had my way running my business, I would normally try to hire a high-end tier 3 or a tier 4 if I had my way. So this is where you're going to get your tier 4. It's just sometimes if you have a really small number of leads, you may not need something this robust. However, let me go ahead and talk to you guys briefly about what the direct placement plan looks like. This is where we handpick with and for you an ISA for your business based on what you've communicated that you want. Okay, so let's say you come to me and you say, Bruce, I want a tier 3. Totally fine. Not a problem at all. I want a tier 3, really good cost savings. I want a tier 4. I want a tier 6. I want a tier 1. And if you don't know the tiers, let me break the tiers down for you. So tier 1 and tier 2 ISAs a lot of times don't have much cold calling, prospecting, sales experience. They've been customer service or BPO agents for a while. And BPO, I don't know what it stands for. It doesn't mean broker price opinion like it does here. It's basically customer service inbound support. Maybe they've done a little bit of prospecting, but not great. Their accents tend to come through a little bit more, not always, but a lot of times they tend to come through a little bit more. Everyone has to start somewhere though. So I've had ISAs that ended up good that started in tiers 1 and 2. Typically tier 1 and 2 are pretty low price. Tier 1 may be a $2.50 or $3 an hour ISA, no experience at all cold calling. Tier 2, maybe someone between $3 and $4 an hour, maybe up to $4.50 an hour. Very little, if any, cold calling experience. Accent's still going to be a little bit thicker. Their English might not be flawless, but it's okay in some cases. Tier 2 is normally who calls us when we get prospecting calls. So 80% of the calls that I get, I answer. And 80% of those are typically going to be people that I would identify as a tier 2 prospector, a tier 2 cold caller. I like to hire in tier 3 for our team, and for myself, upper end tier 3, if not tier 4. So tier 3 is normally going to be a $5 to $6 an hour ISA. They have cold calling experience. Most of the time, it's real estate cold calling or appointment setting experience. They are best as lead identifiers, as identifying that you've got the right person, trying to identify what the person's situation is, maybe getting communication to follow up or to communicate further, and passing it to you to carry the prospecting on from that point forward. That's what your normal tier 3 person is going to be. Tier 4 is where you start getting people that can carry that follow up on themselves instead of having to pass it all through to you. Maybe they're able to get a little bit further into the conversation. A tier 4 ISA a lot of times is going to be between $7 and $10 an hour. 10 being on the very high end of a tier 4 ISA. But $7 to $10 an hour, you're going to get someone that's able to have a pretty in-depth conversation, move that person through with some influence techniques into potential appointments or phone transfers. I think it's important that you guys understand that when I'm actively job posting, headhunting, doing interviews, I probably interview about 100 people for every 5. So I get about 5% that are in out of 100 interviews or resumes that I get, about 5% are tier 3. I would say that it's like 1, maybe 2% might be a tier 4. And then less than 1% are going to be tiers 5 and 6. So less than 1%. Tier 6 is usually a US-based person who has some real estate background, where tier 5 is normally going to be a through-the-roof offshore ISA. We're talking about someone who's practically eliminated their accent. They've been in the real estate sales space for a long time. They can close, like they just have really high-level conversations. So that would be tier 5 offshore, or maybe they're an expat, or a US person that doesn't have real estate experience, but they just have good conversation ability. So that's tier 5. A lot of times if tier 4 goes up to $10 an hour, tier 5 may go up to $15 an hour, and tier 6 may go into the 20s. So your job, if you're going to go with direct placement, is to figure out which one of those tiers you're looking for, and you let me know. If you're looking for tier 3, know that I can probably land multiple people in your Zoom room for an interview pretty quickly. If you're looking for tier 4, it might take a week or two. If you're looking for tier 5, give me 2-3 weeks. Tier 6, give me a couple of weeks. Okay. So that's kind of what we're looking at and what the tiers mean. So what we do with direct placement is we go out and we help, we do the initial screening, resume screening, we do initial interview, we do a brief role play to see what level their conversation ability is at, and then we bring you the ISA for hire. All right, so what's all this going to cost? So if you use us to do your headhunting and initial screening for you and bring the right people in front of you to interview, then it's going to cost $295. So $295 is what we get to kind of do all that initial screening and interviewing, and then we bring you up to 10 candidates for you to interview. If it's more than 10 candidates, we'll add on a little bit to that $295. But most of the time, it's usually done. You'll hire someone in the first 4 people that we bring you. Now, after that, we need to train them. So training is going to be $295, and that comes in the form of a course. So it's a course that I've recorded where I teach probate prospecting, beginner, intermediate, and advanced prospecting. I teach circle prospecting, beginner, intermediate, advanced prospecting for circle prospecting, and most everything outside of probate is normally pretty intermediate. For sale by owner, expired, and buyer prospecting, and you say, hey, you know what, I don't need all those, I'm just doing probate, or I don't need all those, I'm only doing expired, you're gonna get the whole thing. So I give you and your ISA that course for $295. If you fire them, if they quit, if you need a replacement, if ISAs just aren't good for you, you have that course. It's an asset that you can use. You can go back through it as often as you want. So $295 for training and $295 for the initial screening. So that would be $590 total if you use both of those. All right. Management. So who's going to manage time, payroll, ongoing training, things like that. So if you're using us for this, then our involvement is going to be biweekly training. And that biweekly training is going to be in a small group. So it could just be me and your ISA. It could be me and 4 ISAs, but it's always going to be small group. There's never going to be more than 5 people in that session. So that's typically an hour and 15 minutes long, where I'm training the ISA on different tactics and techniques. And I'm also role playing each one of the ISAs during that session. A lot of times those role play calls bring up the training topic for the day. So it's actually important that they get to hear their peers role play, because maybe they'll pick up something that they've never thought about themselves. So I'm typically role playing each and every ISA in that small group training session. I'm offering some coaching, things like that, on that biweekly role play session. So they're sharpening their skills ongoing. We are also managing their payments. We're managing your payroll. So when you have an offshore ISA, you've got to set up international transfer software. You have to set up bank accounts. You have to get their bank information. You have to pay international transfer fees. There's credit card fees. There's all those different things. We have all that system set up. So we are also doing that for you. Now, the negative of this is we collect your payment a month in advance. That gives the ISA a lot of peace of mind, knowing that they're not going to work for a month and then get stiffed at the end of the month. And believe me, that really happens. A lot of our ISAs came to us because their clients did stiff them on payment after a couple of weeks or a month of work. So we collect your payment a month in advance and we pay it out. Typically on it twice a month. This is kind of up to you, but typically twice a month on the 15th and the 30th or the 31st of the month, as their duties are fulfilled or as their hours are fulfilled. All right. We also manage the time tracking on this. So we use a system called Hubstaff. and we are having them clock in and clock out, and we're monitoring efficiency as well. Now we're just going to give you those tracking reports along with efficiency. If you have an issue with what you're seeing, you can consult with us, but that's a conversation between you and your ISA at that point. But we kind of carry the software and carry the payroll for you. So what happens on the ongoing? So ongoing, the bi-weekly role play and training sessions are $99 a month, and the payroll management and time tracking together are $149 a month. The $149 could technically go up or down a little bit depending on your ISA salary. We have to make sure that we're covering credit card fees and international transfer fees and things like that. So if you're paying an ISA a couple $1,000s a month, then it's probably going to stretch a little over 149. If you're paying an ISA 300 a month, it's probably going to stretch below 149. But plan for the average ISA that's a tier 3 or tier 4. Plan on them being about 149 a month. And if you want to know your exact quote, reach out to us. But for the most part, that's going to, if you're getting a tier 3 or tier 4, it's going to be 149 a month for your payroll and time management, time tracking, and it's going to be 99 a month for bi-weekly role play and training sessions. Okay, so about $250 a month is going to be the extent of our ongoing monthly fees. Okay. If you'd like to get started with a direct placement, go ahead and reach out. Tell us how many hours you're looking for and approximately what tier you're looking for. In the next video, I'm actually going to put in a couple of the training and role play sessions of some of our tier 3 and tier 4 ISAs so that you can listen to those, just so you know kind of what you're getting. By the way, with this plan, you also want to go ahead and get your dialer. So you're going to need to get your dialer set up. My suggestion is to go with a click-to-call dialer, and there's a whole list in the description in the talking points underneath of this video. You could use a power dialer. I normally don't suggest and use power dialers. I like to use voice over IP dialers, so it gives the ISA a local phone number to you, and then they can either click to call or copy paste the phone numbers out of your system. And it's much more methodical. It's a little bit slower, but it's more detail focused. Less ability to make goofy mistakes, like not being able to pronounce someone's name when they're like this, when you see their name the first second that you hear the person answer, or potentially some of that latency where they pick the phone up and say hello, 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 and then there's a transfer. So power dialers tend to come with pros and cons. I like the click to call or manual dial dialers. Okay, I'll put some names of those in the description below. Next video, we're going to talk about self-placement. So if you do not want to pay any fees, if you want to kind of pick your own ISAs, do your own interviews, things like that, we're going to go to self-placement. I'm going to tell you exactly where and how you can do that in the next video. And I will see you guys over there. Thanks.